this is Billy Howerdel, and you're watching Heavy Consequence.
A Perfect Circle released Eat the Elephant in 2018. It was the first album in a long time. And obviously you have the solo project. Maynard has Pussifer and Tool. James is back in Smashing Pumpkins again. Yeah. But given the time with the pandemic and the fact that you did complete a lot of these solo songs, as you say, in 2019, had the wheels been turning on new music for A Perfect Circle? Can you tell me anything about that?
I'm always writing things in the background, so whether they make it onto a next Perfect Circle, recording or mine, we'll see. I kind of just, at this point, make music, and then I'll present a lot to Maynard and see what's turning him on. He has to be engaged, and he has to be into the idea of it, or it's never going to work, right? You can't force him to do it, nor would he entertain it. So I just put them in a kind of generic folder on my computer that's just called Billy, and then I'll see where they go from there.
And I wanted to talk about you have a long-standing musical partnership with Maynard, and he's this huge figure in rock music, fronting these bands, successful bands, but he's also kind of an enigmatic figure as well. And just what can you tell me, not so much from a personal standpoint, but what have you learned from him as a musician, being in A Perfect Circle and collaborating with him for all these years?
I mean, I always feel like my game is elevated when I'm around him, regardless, whether it's a conversation or it's in the studio or on the stage rehearsing or playing. He's got an energy. He obviously loves the craft and the business of the business part of it too, and as kind of I feel like Maynard has his bearings more solid than most people I know in music. He knows his lane. He knows what he can and can't do. He's great at what he does do, and he gets out of the way when it's someone else's job to do it. And I think his output has been amazing, even though it's like someone could say it's a long time between APC records, but there's he does have, like I said, Tool and Pussifer and his winery, his love of wine and food and all his endeavors that go with that. Those are the things that are important. I mean, we have things in our lives that are outside of music that make us want to get back to music as well, and keep those juices flowing. And that's, for him, he's found, a triangulation of passions that, make his art seem to get better and better.
I know a lot of people who are familiar with your history know that before A Perfect Circle, you were a studio and touring tech for some really high profile acts, David Bowie, Guns N' Roses, Nine Inch Nails, and Tool among them. And I just wanted to know how, working with those acts prepared you for being an artist yourself, and if there's any story, specifically, just Bowie or GNR or Nine Inch Nails that you kind of took away and really helped set a path for you as an artist. I'd love to hear about that.
I mean, a couple things. One was working for Fishbone, was one of the first bands I toured with. And Kendall, the guitar player, asked me to go to dinner one night. This was, I don't know, a year or so into the tour. And sat me down and squared me up and said, "Why are you working for me? I've heard your demos. What are you doing here?" And it was like, I just didn't have that mentality of like, I'm going to make it. I just had the mentality of like, I like being around all of this, the energy of a show. I liked working in service of the show and the concert and like having a success, taking the pressure off of the guitar player. Like I liked that part. But I was writing music, and he basically in one question gave me permission to go, yeah, okay, maybe I can, and it would be years later before I really took the plunge into really making my music be heard by other people. But I'm not good at sales, so I was never a self-starter as far as like, getting the message out or the word out. And so that was one thing. And then I think in working for Nine Inch Nails, a couple of years later, Sean Bevan was the front of house sound guy, but also sort of like a musical director and very close with Trent. And he was kind of giving me the lay of the land on, day one or day two of working with Nine Inch Nails. And he's like, look, Trent doesn't expect anything from you that he wouldn't do himself. And he can do a fuck of a lot. It's like, okay, shot fired across the bow, warning taken. And I liked it just because, Trent he's an amazing musical force, but he is technical too. You can see it. I mean, I'd gone into the studio and I brought Maynard to the New Orleans studio to meet Trent. I mean, they obviously knew who each other were, but they never met. And it was great. The first day I brought him in there, I remember Trent was literally on the floor with a PC spread out, putting circuit boards together and things like that. And I think it was the moment when Maynard goes, oh, okay, this guy's for real. This isn't just some guy phoning it in with a pretty face and whatever, a couple lucky songs, like this is a guy that's doing the work. And then, I don't know, that's me imagining, because I know Maynard's work ethic and I know what things he values. And Trent was a big, and still is a big inspiration and kind of North Star for what it is to be, a writer, but a person looking at technology and how it incorporates into your world, and just things from a different angle, and like the trajectory of what his career went. I think it's inspiring.